evening and welcome all. The Lopetegui era starts in earnest tomorrow. He's been in the building for a while. He's had his pre-season. He's gotten his message hopefully across to the players. But tomorrow, Gatesy, for the first time in the Lopetegui era, West Ham will kick a ball in anger. Excited for it?
Very. Cannot wait, my friend. It's obviously, the previous era is now a distant memory. I'm looking forward to this new broom to sweep clean. Although I do think it will possibly take a little bit of time for some of the players to lose the previous incumbent's way of playing. Do you know what I mean? I think there's certain players that might have had so long of playing Moyes ball that it might have almost become second nature to them. So it might take those guys a little bit of time to rinse that out of their system. But yeah, I think that I'm really looking forward to the game tomorrow. It'd be a tough fixture. Let's make no mistake about it. They're a Champions League team on merit, but they've got a bit of a problem at striker, it seems, because neither of their frontline strikers, one of whom we've obviously tried to get in the summer, have played a singular minute in their pre-season schedule. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it with cautious optimism tomorrow. Tom, how about yourself?
Yeah, same as that really, and I suppose we'll get into the reasons why. I think we were all, well, most of us, I think, as a fan base, were very, very fatigued with the Moyes era. So I think the fact that it's a fresh start at all is it kind of set us off on the right foot, I think, and led to some optimism. But and it hasn't exactly been a quiet start, has it, to his tenure? Him and Tim Stoyton have been busy boys. It's 8 players at the moment that have come in. That may not be all. We're hearing possibly there could be 1 or 2 more. It's been a very, very busy window, and one of the things I wanted to do this evening was going to go through kind of player by player who we've brought in and what you think of those transfers, because there's been a lot of them. It's been a very busy window, which has been brilliant, really. There was kind of early business and then kind of a quiet period where we all started getting a little bit antsy, and then it just took off. And all of a sudden I think it's been 2 or 3 days now since the players come in, and we're getting a bit annoyed, to be honest. Like, it's like, where's the next one? We're getting spoiled for a while. It seemed like every day there was a new player coming through the door. But it started off kind of, I suppose we'll start with young Guilherme, someone I know absolutely nothing about. So Tim went swanning off to Brazil. Obviously, there were a few players that he was looking at and potentially trying to sign. This Wesley fella who was a winger as well, and there was that centre back he was looking at, and he obviously had no intention of coming back empty-handed. And arrived back with young Luis Guilherme, 18 years old, lightning fast. Looks like a really kind of tricky winger and with an eye for goal as well. And that was the first signing. It was difficult to get too excited about it because A, he's 18, and B, none of us probably ever heard of him before. But at least it was an early one in the door, and certainly a very, very different kind of signing than you normally get under David Moyes, and one that you feel he would never have sanctioned.
No, absolutely no chance. What was it? I'm just looking here on Transfer Market. It's got it down here in euros, so I don't know what the conversion rate is. I think it says here 23 million euros. So what's that? 20 million quid. Do we honestly think that David Moyes would have spent £20 on Luis Guilherme, let alone 20 million pounds, sort of thing, on an 18-year-old from Palmeiras in the Brazilian league? Absolutely not a chance. No chance. I think this is probably one for the future. I don't think this is so much one for the here and the now. I've got a funny feeling it might be a little bit of, and this might be quite a controversial thing to say. I think it might be with Guilherme a little bit of succession planning, which is completely sensible. We've obviously got a couple of well sought after players, and I dare say we'll reference them in due course. But we've got a couple of players that are on the radar of some of the bigger clubs. And look, we have to be realistic and say that if they put in an offer that is financially viable for the club, financially viable for the player, we as fans might not want it to happen, but guess what? It's going to happen. So Luis Guilherme is possibly one that's sort of like going to be learning from the players that he may eventually go on to replace, if that sort of makes sense. So
Yeah. Again, I'm okay with it. It's not huge money these days. He's only 18, and if in the next couple of years he proves to be an absolute gem of a player, then so be it. But probably if he makes enough appearances for us and he plays well enough, you probably get most of that back in your next sale. So it's kind of punt money really these days, isn't it? If he's any kind of a player at all, we'll probably get most of that back anyway. So yeah, why not? And let's hope Tim knows what he's doing and has good contacts over there in Brazil. And there's always, of course, the potential that he may turn out to be absolute mustard, and we may end up making a huge profit on him. So and could be a brilliant player down the line, but that's one we'll have to wait and see on. We brought in Wes Fotheringham. Obviously, not a big deal. This one, it's just a kind of a training ground goalkeeper who'll probably never take to the pitch for us, unless there's a real problem at goalkeeper. If Fabianski goes down, he'll be bumped up to the bench and stuff like that. So we may never actually see him play for West Ham.
He's basically the modern version of David Martin, isn't he, Tom?
Yeah, he's the new David Merton, and not a big deal. This one, just a bit of extra cover. You need a good training ground goalkeeper anyway, so he'll fill that role and come in an emergency. So again, nothing much to talk about there. Then, and this has Lopetegui written all over it. We went out and spent £40 million on Max Kilman from Wolves. Which I'll be honest, at the time really worried me, because I thought, fucking hell, that's a lot of money. That is 40 million out of our budget, and I didn't know we were going to go on to spend as much as we did. I thought the budget would be a bit more limited than it's proven to be, and I thought, fucking hell, you've taken some chunk there on Max Kilman. I'll be honest with you, I feel like we've overpaid for him. It feels like Lopetegui really wanted him because he was his captain at Wolves when he was there briefly. He obviously highly rates him. So for me, and don't get me wrong, this is not me saying, "Oh, Max Kilman is shit." I don't think that at all. I think Max Kilman will do a good job for us at centre back. I think he'll be a very decent centre back for us. But we really overpaid for him, and I think we did it because Lopetegui just really, really wanted him. And given that £40 million now, especially outside of the UK, can get you one hell of a player. This one still, to me, is a little bit disappointing. I feel like for that kind of money, we could have put someone in that position who's better than he is, and probably a bit younger, maybe even as well. I just think for £40 million sterling on the continent, we could have potentially gotten one hell of a centre back. And so I'm a bit disappointed that we've spent that much money on Kilman. But look, so be it, and on Lopetegui's head be it, because this to me is, I just don't see that Tim Steidton, left to his own devices, would have had any intention of paying £40 million for Max Kilman. But as I said, I don't want to be negative any here. I think he'll be a good centre back for us. I just think for that kind of money, we could have an unbelievable centre back pairing.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I mean, as far as I was concerned, I was actually quite keen to get the player in, Max Kilman. Probably about a year or so ago, I would have been quite content with him coming in at that point. But I agree. I think that 40 million is probably more than I'd have really expected us to spend on him, if I'm being completely honest. But then I suppose you have to factor in two things. Number one, he's English, and English players do tend to sort of carry a little bit of a premium. And also the fact that he's a left footed centre back. And again, they're not in so ready supply as right footed centre backs. So again, that sort of that factor will mean that he would be again carry a premium for that. So I think probably those two factors together probably bumped up his price a little bit, and
Yeah.
probably again you mentioned about the fact that the head coach wanted him because of their time together at Wolves. Again, that probably played a part in us spending more money than I think if they hadn't have had that connection, I think maybe the coach would have turned around to Tim Stuyton and said, I think maybe we don't go any further with this because it's getting a little bit expensive. But I think because they had that backstory together, I think that probably J Lo's probably turning around to Tim and saying, go on then, slap another £5 million on the table.
Yeah. I think that was one where Tim said, "All right, look, I'll give you Kilman just to kind of keep him sweet because he was a player I think he really wanted." And then Tim said, "Right, look, I'm going to give you Kilman, and then I'm going to go and do my thing because that's his job ultimately is to sign the players. We can't have a situation again where the manager is deciding what players do or don't come. If they're able to work together amicably, that's fine. But I think Tim also needs to have the stones, and I hope he does, to say to Lopetegui, no, sorry, I'm not paying that much for him. It's not worth that money. It's overpaying. I'm not doing it. We'll see how that goes down the line. Again, not a signing I was thrilled about for that kind of money, but let's hope he comes in and does a Dawson or something, and turns out to be absolutely fantastic for us. I like to say left-footed as well. How much stock do you put in that? I'd love to. I actually don't really know. It may be that it's very important that your left-sided centre back is left-footed, but given that both centre backs play essentially centrally, I just wonder how important is it. I'd love to actually speak to someone who's kind of played centre back in the Premier League in both of those positions, like as the left-sided centre back and the right-sided centre back, and just ask them: is it really very important that your left-sided centre back is left-footed and your right-sided centre back is right-footed, or does it really matter when you're playing that centrally? I'm really not sure actually how much stock to put in that or not.
I think it depends upon the individual, doesn't it? There are some players that are going to be more comfortable. I mean, to sort of illustrate the point, Craig Dawson never played on the left. Every time he was partnered by a fellow right-footed centre back, like Kurt Zuma, for instance, it would always be the other player that was shifted across to the left. Dawson he wasn't comfortable playing on the left. So there are players that just don't feel comfortable in on the wrong side, if you will. Then again, there's other players that will go, yeah, fine, I'm right-footed. If you want me to play on the left, fine, I'll do the job. I think it's more of an issue for fullbacks than it is for centre backs. I do agree, but I
Yeah,
think that if you've got the sort of capability of getting a left-footed centre back, I just think it just adds a bit more balance. It just sort of like if you got two left-sided defenders, two right-sided defenders naturally, as opposed to sort of saying to one sort of like a right footer go on the left and just do a job there sort of thing. I just think it's just a better fit myself. But it's probably not a deal breaker. You're right.
yeah, yeah. It probably is ideal if you have a left-footed centre back playing LCB, but again, probably not vital. But yeah, but look, it's not Max Kilman's fault how much was paid for him.
No.
That was what Wolves wanted. That's what we were willing to pay. So, it's not on his head, really, is it? But having said that, I think he'll be fine. I think Max Kilman will be a very good player. So that's Guilherme covered. That is Fotheringham covered. That is Kilman covered. I don't know if I'm exactly going to get them bang in order, but we'll see how we go. Somerville. Every time I have to stop myself calling him Jimmy. We go. I almost did it again. I almost said Jimmy Somerville, but
Don't leave me
yeah.
this way, Tom.
Now Somerville was a different one. I was actually really excited by this. This was the first one where I was like, "Oh, hello! Now this is a proper sign in this. Now we're talking." And I think probably part of that was because there was a lot of frustration on my part with that left side of midfield. It had been unaddressed for far too long. We had basically tried everyone, including Ward-Prowse at one stage, out on the left wing, including Fornells, Benrahma, Paqueta. I think Emerson was pushed forward there on one or two occasions, and it was a real problem position. And then we went and got the Championship Player of the Year, Somerville. Really exciting player. He was absolutely brilliant last season for Leeds. He's got pace. He likes to cut inside again. Likes to cut inside, but unlike Benrahma, he's got pace and he's not afraid to use it. And he's actually got a really good shot on him. He scores goals and he gets assists. This to me was the first signing to maybe sit up and rub my hands and go, "Oh yeah, now we're talking. This is a proper player that I'm really excited to see play for West Ham this season."
Yes, I was the same as you. When my brother and I did a transfer targets video back in January transfer window on the West Ham Massive. Had to get the plug in. We did one and we went through left midfielders, and my brother actually sort of listed some left-sided left midfielders, wingers, whatever you want to call them now, inverted forwards. And he named a couple of players, but his choice, after having sort of gone through the list of players that he was scrutinizing, he arrived at Crescencio Somerville. And so I know my brother would have been absolutely cock a hoop with that. And yeah, I mean, he was Championship Player of the Year last season. I mean, it has to be said, there is a step up in quality, but on the basis of what I saw of him last season, I think that is a player that, given a little bit of time, can make the step up from Champ to Premier in the same way that Jared Bowen did several years back. He was a player that made the step up from Hull, and look at him now. He's now the club captain. So Somerville, yeah, very excited by his signing. I think he will be a ready supply line to probably one of the next guys that you're about to talk about. Excuse me. So
Yeah, we'll get through them. I'm trying to remember the exact order. It doesn't matter. I might get them wrong a bit. But then
I know he has, Luke. I've just seen Luke's comment. I know he has, but it wasn't that much. I think it was about maybe 20 games.
Yeah. Then one that came for me just a little bit out of left field. Was not expecting this one at all. Given that we had been pushing very hard to get John Duran in from Aston Villa, and we're obviously very, very keen on this player. We're doing everything that seemed we could to try and get a deal done with Villa. And then the next thing we know, Tim's off to Germany, to Dortmund, getting a deal done for Nicholas Füllkrug. Now, obviously, it's a position that needed sorting, but Füllkrug's 31. has a good reputation in Germany, but certainly not a massive one. A bit of a late bloomer, Fulkrug. Hasn't actually played that many seasons in the top flight in Germany. He's kind of flittered between the top two divisions there, but obviously, look, he's done very well with Dortmund. Got called up to the Germany squad, did well in the Euros for them, did very, very well for Dortmund in the Champions League last season. But it wasn't one I was expecting. And when it happened, I'll be honest, I had to really think about it for a while, the Fulkrug one. I didn't quite know how to feel about it when it happened.
I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought at the time it was because obviously at the time we was going quite blatantly for John Duran, and I honestly thought that it was a ploy on the part of the club to try and get Villa to focus their minds and to reset their what they wanted from us in terms of John Duran. I just thought it was a bit of a game of poker, a little game of chicken. And then lo and behold, we signed him. So shows you what I bloody know. But yeah, I mean, he's. I don't want to sort of belittle him by saying he's a bit of a throwback, but he probably is in a lot of respects, a little bit of an older school centre forward. But that being said, he's quite technically proficient from what I can see. He's not just a target man. He's not sort of like a Andy Carroll 2.0. He's got a little bit more than that. And I mean, he scored a couple of decent goals at the Euros, to be fair. So, and if you actually look at his record through his career, he's averaging about a goal every 3 games. But when you look at his international record, it's stunning. It's I think it was 13 goals in 20 internationals. That's mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. If we could get him coming in, and if he can sort of carry on his ratio of his career ratio in league football of a goal every 3 games, well, what's that? 12, 13 goals in the Premier League? That's not to be sniffed at. And you've got obviously all the other players that are going to contribute as well. He's going to be making sort of like opportunities for those other players, the Crescencio Somervilles, the Jared Bowens, the Kuduses, the Paquetars. He's going to be occupying defenders and causing gaps in the back line that they can capitalise on.
Yeah, I've warmed to it, to be honest. Like you, when Stoiton was in Germany and the links come out to Fulkrug, I thought, okay, like you, probably like a lot of fans, I thought he's playing Villa here. He's just saying to Villa, "Oh, you better take this offer, Villa, or we're going to just go sign someone else, and then you're going to be stuck with him." Because we felt like Villa really did not want to be stuck with him. But Nick, weren't you on a show? I was not watching him. He was on our other channel talking about someone else had farted. I think Nick's hearing things. You're definitely hearing things, Nick. Definitely, 100%. Thanks for the €2, though. That's gone straight to the.
He would say that, though, Nick. He would say that.
Yes.
I think he's protesting too much. I think you've got a point.
He's owned up to it. Look, he's. But yeah, the Fulkrug one, because I've warmed to it. I think probably, to be fair, it's not because of his football, because he hasn't played for us yet. I thought his interview was absolutely brilliant. He's after I watched the interview, I just thought, you know what? I think we're going to love this guy. I think he's going to become one of those cult heroes at West Ham. I feel like we're just going to love him. His attitude is absolutely top class. I loved the way he spoke about the game, about himself, about joining West Ham. He said all the right things. It was a fantastic interview. And so now I'm at the point where I'm kind of rooting for him. You know what I mean? He's the kind of character that I just really, really hope it works out for him at West Ham. and that he plays really well and bangs in a few goals. And there's no actual pressure on him. I think in Lopetegui's system, he doesn't have to score 20 a season. Like you said, if he can get into double figures in goals in the Premier League, that's fine because Jared's going to be in double figures. Somerville is probably going to chip in with a few goals. He's a goal scorer. Kudus is going to score his share of goals. You're probably going to get Paquetá will knock in out any penalties and will probably chip in with a small few goals from play as well. So our goals are likely to be spread around the team anyway. So we're not overly reliant on having a striker who bangs in 20 a season, otherwise we're in trouble. And to be frank, 20 goal a season strikers are very, very hard to come by anyway for any club. The top clubs are delighted if they have a striker that bangs in 20. So there's no massive pressure on him to score a hatful. But I think if he's playing really well and he's linking up the play really well and he gets his few goals and gets a handful of assists, I think that would be good enough. He'll have done his job. And again, he wasn't huge money. It was good money, but not huge money. He's 31, but again, from what I'm being told, he's not a player who's ever relied on pace anyway. And he's obviously very fit. You can see he keeps himself in good shape. So he probably does have another 3 very good seasons in him, with his style of play. So I'm hoping, it'll be a real success. And we need it to be really at number 9, don't we, at this point? We need someone who's going to come in and link up the play and be really good up there for us and score a few goals. I was just thinking actually about Teddy Sheringham, funnily enough, and Michael brought it up. Not suggesting Fulcrum's as good as Teddy Sheringham because he was a Rolls Royce of a player, Teddy. But he's the same kind of style of player, intelligent player.
Not reliant on pace. He anticipates.
Anticipates really well. The clever little passes. So he could do a Teddy type job for us, hopefully, and so I'm okay with it. I would have loved to have gotten John Duran, but with the John Duran deal, to be honest, with the Gatesy, I was at the point where I was happy for us to walk away. I thought actually Villa were just taking the piss, frankly. We put in some very, very good offers for that boy. And Villa, for some bizarre reason, just wanted to absolutely fleece us on that deal. And I'm really glad, actually, then that we didn't sign him, because I thought it was a bit of a piss take. When it came out that we'd offered, I think it was it 32 million plus add-ons plus Orford. I was actually fuming, absolutely fuming. I said, if we send Orford to Villa, I'm just going to lose it, because I think Orford is an absolutely brilliant young talent. And I would not have included him in any deal to Aston Villa for John Duran, because John Duran may turn out to be a brilliant striker, and I suspect he might. I think he has a lot of talent, and I was very excited at the prospect of him leading the line for us. I would have been absolutely chuffed had we gotten that deal done. But at the end of the day, it has to be the right deal. And for me, it still remains the fact that he's 20 years old. He's not proven in the Premier League. When he's come on for Villa, he's done well. He's looked good. He has a couple of goals. But when we get to the point where teams are talking about 40 million plus add-ons plus percentage sell-on clause for a 20-year-old who's unproven, at that point you're like, you're having a fucking laugh. So who do you think? I mean, for that kind of deal, you should be getting a nailed-on, proven goal scorer who's like top class. Like, you know what I mean? You should know exactly what you're getting for that kind of deal. And you don't really know what you're getting with Duran. You're paying for what you think he will become. And that was way too rich for me. I'm glad we walked away from that one. Somebody said it in the chat there. I thought, where is it now? That the 32 million.
Mandy. Villa should have
Yeah, it was
accepted
Mendy.
32. Yeah.
Well, Mendy's saying Villa should have taken the 32 million. 32 million for an unproven 20-year-old with seemingly a lot of promise and a lot of talent, I think is a great deal for Villa, especially for a player that they're trying to get out the club.
Well, that's the thing, is that I think as this window winds on, Villa's desperation is magnified.
Yeah.
I actually wouldn't be shocked if before the transfer window closes, John Duran is a West Ham player, and it may be a loan with an obligation to buy or something like that, similar to the Todibo deal. But I wouldn't be shocked if once that transfer window slams shut, we've got another striker, and his name is John Duran. However, if that doesn't happen, there's another version of events that actually worries me. And he could actually be used tomorrow in theory. And I hadn't actually stopped to consider this. It was only Nick from Claret and Booze that put this version of events to me, and I sort of come away going, shit, I didn't really sort of consider that. It's like, well, what if he either starts the game or is introduced as a sub? He is going to be pretty pissed off that we've basically left him in the lurch. And how do you think he's going to play against us? He's going to come out with fire in his belly. He's going to be like, I'm going to show you fuckers exactly. This is what you've missed out on. And I hope that doesn't happen, Tom. But there is a little part of me that thinks, oh shit, that could be a problem.
Yeah, I don't lose any sleep over it, to be honest. Look, what Duran does on his own social media is his own fucking business.
Yeah.
Nobody made him do that. He decided to do it. Some saying here Duran is already benched for Argentina, which that's quite a feat given he's Colombian. But yeah, I just I think we were right to walk away. And look, if Duran is on the bench tomorrow, fine. If he comes on, fine. I don't care. Like you say, a deal could still be struck for him, but as long as it's for the right kind of money, then fine. Other than that, Villa can fucking keep him and be stuck with him. Like I said, he's not some world class player that we're going to be kicking ourselves that we missed out on. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. We have Fulkrug, and like I said, I think he's going to be a real fan favorite, and I think people are going to love him. And hopefully, he'll have a great season for us.
Do you think we need another striker, Tom?
I do, yeah, and I think we will. I think we signed Fulkrug at his age, at that price, just for. I think in my head, I don't know any. I don't have any inside information, but what I suspect is that we couldn't get the striker we really wanted, which was John Duran.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to shelve it. So we said, okay, we need somebody who can come in and work up there with Antonio for next season. They decided on Fulkrug. He was someone they could get that they like. And despite the fact he's 31, I think the reason is that the expectation is that next summer we're going to go get our striker. Our young striker for the future. Whether that's Duran or someone else remains to be seen. But I think the idea is this season we'll have Fulkrug and Antonio. At the end of the season, Antonio is out of contract. He'll leave the club. Fulkrug will then become the backup to the new shiny striker that we bring in next summer. It could happen in January. Who knows? I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But I suspect Fulkrug is there just as a make weight who will be good enough to do a job until we get the striker we really want. And I'm okay with that. I'd rather do it that way than to spunk money on a bad signing. Let's wait and see if we're going to be patient on the John Duran thing and get it over the line eventually, whether it's at the end of the window or whether it's in January or next summer or it's someone else that we're going to identify between now and then I think that's fine. I think, and I suspect that what may be the plan.
So you see Fulkrug as more a transitional striker. I guess that's a given that he's 31, really, isn't he?
Yeah.
What are you
Obviously,
reasonably expecting?
long
Another
term,
2-3
yeah.
years?
He's obviously not a long-term solution,
No.
and not meant to be our number one long term. I think it'd be good enough because Ings is still around. So at the end of next season, Ings will be gone, Antonio will be gone, Fulkrug will be back up to whoever I think we bring in as our frontline striker for the following season. So that's what I suspect. Like I said, I don't know any of this to be true, but that's what I'm thinking. So that's Fulkrug.
I'm gonna go off at a tangent at this point, Tom.
Go ahead.
Your shirt, do you like it? I'm
Yeah,
guessing you do. Do you know there's one part about it that I just, and this is all the kits that I cannot, why? Why?
It's a total mind blower because other than that, like it's love. Now I got the one without the fucking sponsor on it.
Yeah, good
They're always
choice.
nicer. Actually, I have to say thank you to Sinead.
The boss.
Yes, the lovely Sinead, who I adore, who bought me this.
She's sitting next to you, isn't she?
No, she's in the kitchen, but she is
All right.
She is in earshot. Yeah.
All right. Right. I had to be one or the other, didn't it?
Yeah, she can hear me, so I have to be at my best behavior. But because I have to, like, she keeps me topped up with tea.
There you go.
There you
Beautiful,
go.
beautiful. And he's into bird watching as well. Look at that. He's Ireland's version of Bill Oddie, didn't you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always just looking out my window, staring at tits.
Yeah. You and me both. Another thing we've got in common: we both have a liking for tits.
Yeah, there you go.
We've got a little hut at the bottom of our gardens, both of us. We go in there and we've got little binoculars. We can just sort of like looking out for tits. Beautiful.
Yeah, and I like them all. They're all lovely. So, Daniel, we're going to come back to this. So I did see it, and we're going to get back to that because that obviously is one of the burning questions we have going into the new season. Okay, so then another older gentleman that we got, but this time on a free transfer. It was out of contract. Forgive me, the club he was at in Spain escapes me. Was it Real Betis? So he was out of contract with Real Betis. He was supposed to sign for Barcelona. Xavi really liked him, apparently, and wanted him in on a free transfer. Then Xavi departed Barcelona, and then Barcelona decided not to bother signing him. And Tim swooped in. I went and grabbed Guido Rodriguez. Now, again, a player I wasn't particularly familiar with. I had to go and look him up and see what this guy was all about. But I'll be honest, again, despite his age, it's free transfer at the end of the day, so the age doesn't really bother me. I actually think this might prove to be a very, very tidy bit of business, Gatesy.
I agree. Betis, he would have been in close proximity to a certain Pablo Fornals, who I'm sure has given him a heads up on what that he needs to bring to the party and what we as a fan base bring to the party. He's a World Cup winner, and okay, he wasn't one of the mainstays. He wasn't a Lionel Messi. He wasn't Enzo Fernandez. He wasn't Emi Martinez. But he was part of a squad that was put together that won a World Cup. He's also part of two squads that have won 2 Copa Americas. He played the whole 90 minutes of the Finalissima, which was the game between the South American champions and the European champions that took place at Wembley a couple of years back. He played the whole game. He's a quality player.
He is quality.
And saw him in the Betway Cup the other day. And all right, it's friendly. You have to factor that in. I'm not going to sort of go overboard, but on the basis of what I've seen and on the basis of what I've genned up on, I think it's, for a free transfer, and he's on 40 grand a week. Masterstroke, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And I agree with Trojan. I was going to get to this next. Given that Alvarez is injured, it's entirely possible that Rodriguez could start. Given that we need a DM in there, and he is a DM, I suspect he'll start tomorrow, and in the game after, with Alvarez out injured. And I think Alvarez could be banging trouble here, Gatesy. I mean, he might not get his shirt back. He might not get his place. Look, I know how good Alvarez is, and I love Alvarez. I really do. I think Alvarez is a cracking player. But if Rodriguez is playing really, really well, he could make himself very difficult to drop. He may put himself in a position where Lopetegui just couldn't justify dropping him. I mean, he's a cracking player, Rodriguez.
Possibly. But
You can't
again,
play both, right? You couldn't play both.
yeah, you could. They played together at Club America.
Well, yes, but that
So
was when Alvarez was at centre back.
who's to say that he won't play three centre backs and one of them's Alvarez? It's entirely possible. We don't know. We don't know. There might be situations. And look, Lopetegui is a very fluid manager. He's gonna be someone that he'll have a little move around of the pieces of the jigsaw if he feels that it's going to be to the team's benefit, to drop Alvarez in at centre back and play three centre backs with Gilman and Todibo either side of him, then he won't hesitate to do it. Who's to say he won't?
Yeah, well, I think that would be a really interesting one. Look, we know Alvarez's quality, but he can struggle a bit staying on the pitch, even when he is fit. He does pick up cards a lot, so
He does.
suspensions seem like a possibility this season. So Rodriguez could see a lot of game time, and who knows if Lopetegui thinks Alvarez is a little bit too much of a risk, and he's terrified every game he's going to get himself sent off. He might feel that Rodriguez is the safer bet. But so that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on, because I think there'll be very, very strong competition between Alvarez and Rodriguez for that spot this coming season. It'll be interesting to see how that one shakes out. And then came what I thought was an incredibly exciting signing. A masterstroke. We spoke about a masterstroke with Rodriguez. This was even more so, in my opinion. A player that Juventus were desperately trying to sign. And Tim rocked up, put 30 bags on the table and was like, nah, he'll be coming back with me, boys. And that's Jean-Claire Todibo. Now, this guy is absolute mustard, and I can't wait to see him play.
Well, I mean, it seemed to go on for an eternity, this one, didn't it? We was linked with him. Juventus were sniffing around. There was talk that his preference was to go to Turin, and
Which is fair enough.
I understand. He's not an East Ender. He has no connection to the club up to that point.
And I think it's important as well. It's important to note he did not reject West Ham.
No.
He did not say, "I do not want to play for West Ham." He just his preference was to go to Turin, play for the old lady, and that you can understand that.
Yeah, he was assessing his options, which was completely at liberty to do. I got no problem with that whatsoever. He didn't owe West Ham anything at that point. We was offering our services, or we was inquiring about his services for the club. He was obviously looking at Juventus, one of the big heavyweights, super heavyweights of European football down the years. I put myself in his shoes. Of course, you're going to be tempted. Of course, you're going to be sort of going, West Ham, no European football. Juventus, Champions League football. What do we think? What do we think? But it seemed to take an eternity for Juventus to actually get things organised and try and sort of put forward a deal that was financially viable to Nice and to also to the player. And whilst they were fannying around, as you say, Tim spotted the opportunity and he's sort of like he's gone in, right, that's my offer. Come back and let me know if you want to talk Turkey. And of course, Juventus have sort of dilly-dallied, and eventually the players got the ump, the Nice have got the ump, and they've obviously reached back out to Tim and gone, hey, let's put together a deal, and bang, he's a West Ham player.
Yeah, and it seems he's a very bloody persuasive man, it appears, doesn't it? Usually if he goes on a plane and he's off to try and get a player, more often than not, he comes back with him on the plane, doesn't he? He's very good at persuading players about the project at West Ham.
Makes them an offer he can't refuse.
Yeah. And I think Juve really, really wanted him, but I think Juve is it Juve that are splashing out on Coop Miners? I think to bring in Coop Miners. So I think they spent a lot of money on him. So they obviously have very limited money. And I think they tried to do what we did in the end, which was a loan to buy. But I think at that point they kind of pissed Nice off already. Nice wanted a deal done. We were putting the bags on the table. They weren't. So I think in the end, Nice just told Todibo, look, you're either staying here or you're going to West Ham. Pick one. And he said, right, well, sayonara, I'm jumping on the plane with Tim. I think that could prove potentially to be the best signing any Premier League team has made this summer. I think the guy is that good. And 24 years old. I mean, he's only going to get better.
Yeah.
So he's not even at his peak yet. And he's already fantastic. So then it brings us on to, I think, our right back. The saga that was Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So a lot of difficulties in this one, but it had nothing to do with West Ham. We'd agreed a fee with Man United. There was no problem. The fee. There was no problem with personal terms between West Ham and Wan-Bissaka. The problem was Wan-Bissaka's contract with Man United and a certain loyalty bonus, which I think was huge. It was about 7 million or something that they were going to have to pay him in a loyalty bonus. And to be fair, Wan-Bissaka kind of had them over a barrel. Really, all the power was really with Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah,
he hadn't asked for a transfer. He wasn't trying to get out of Man United, but they wanted to get the money for him because they want to sign Mazraoui. Plus, they didn't want to have to wait till the end of the season where they'd have to pay him his 7 million plus watch him walk out the door for nothing. So he could just stay at United for the season, pick up his wages all season, get 7 million at the end of the season from United, walk out the door, and then choose what club he went to and get a nice fat signing on fee from his new club. So Wan-Bissaka was in a very, very strong position. And not surprisingly, he won out in the end. I think they've agreed to give him 5.5 million. And so eventually he got his move to West Ham. This one really dragged on, Gatesy.
Again, it was one that I didn't quite believe it was. We were linked with Wan-Bissaka, we were linked with Kyle Walker-Peters, we were linked with Nuasir Mazraoui, Ferdy Kaliolu, Kieran Trippier. The list went on and on and on, but it kept coming back to Wan-Bissaka.
The funny thing is, I mean, I was actually quite confident the whole way along that it was going to get done.
Were you?
Yeah, because usually when you have two clubs that are both very keen to get the deal done, they tend to get done. United were very keen to sell him to us for 15 million. We were very keen to buy him for 15 million. And usually when that's the case, when both clubs are aligned, shall we say, both clubs really want to make the deal happen, 99% of the time, I feel like the deal will happen.
Yeah, like I say, I was a bit concerned. I was probably not as confident as you. At some point, I did think, look, we're gonna need to just sort of either get the deal done or just sort out another right back, for fuck's sake. It seemed to drag on, and I just thought we're getting closer to the season now. I think he's a fantastic defensive right back, and I know people point to his deficiencies going forwards and say, yeah, but he doesn't really do this, he doesn't really do that, blah blah blah. But I'm a bit old school, Tom, and I'm like, well, yeah, but he's a defender, and the most important thing for me is that he needs to be able to defend. And I don't really see that on that aspect that there's an awfully long queue of right fullbacks in the Premier League that are better than him in that aspect.
No, I mean, defensively, he's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. To get a 26-year-old Aaron Wan-Bissaka for 15 million is an unbelievable bit of business. I the whole time, the one thing that maybe gave me a little bit of doubt as this kind of dragged on and dragged on and dragged on, I'm thinking there's got to be more clubs that are going to want to pay to that. I mean, for Aaron Wan-Bissaka to be available for 15 million quid, I'm actually astonished that no other club was like, geez, fuck it, we'll have a bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
For a player of his caliber, I mean, it's robbery. I mean, 15 million quid is robbery. He is worth so much more than that. So much more than that. I would have no problem saying I think we probably got him for a third of what his actual value is. Um, I think he's a 45 million pound right back. I mean, he's absolute. He's up there, like as one of the very best defensive right backs in the business. He's an absolutely brilliant player. I'm shocked that nobody else, apparently, at 15 million quid, I thought there'd be a clamour for his signing, to be completely honest. Now, we may have just been very, very lucky in a couple of ways. Perhaps the other teams in the Premier League that would have loved to have had him maybe just weren't in the market for a right back and had priorities in other positions. Plus, I think he was probably very keen to return to London,
Yeah.
which really helped us as well. And so none of the other London clubs really were desperate for a right back. So I think this is going to prove to be an absolute steal. And yeah, exactly what Michael is saying here is when you think of like for McTominay and Maguire that they were talking 40 million quid a pop, there's absolutely, I mean, if he wasn't in the last year of his contract, they would have been telling us 45 million for Wan-Bissaka as well. I think that's an absolutely steal and an absolutely brilliant signing. Absolutely brilliant. And I mean, if you look at our back four now compared to last season, I mean, it's massively improved.
Well, we don't have the crippled captain anymore that will be hobbling around at centre half. I feel a bit sorry for him now. I'm saying that. I do feel a bit sorry for Kurt Zuma. He hasn't asked for his knees to just degenerate to the level that they have where he's just hobbling around like old man steptoe. But, there's no place, for sentiment in football. I'm afraid Premier League football, if he's not up to the mark, we've had to obviously move on. But this has really been a good transfer window so far. There's a few places I think I'd like to strengthen, and I think if I'm kind of torn, if we could only sign one more player, one more position to fill, I'm kind of torn between either a striker or a left back.
Yeah.
But I think if we could get one of those two in, either a striker or a left back. I mean, everybody's going on about Carlos Soler from Paris Saint-Germain. Personally, I think it's the wrong position. I'm not so sure we need a central mid. I think we need a striker or a left back, personally.
Here's what I'd say to you about that. Left back, yeah, I agree. but I think that'll be put on the long finger till next summer. I think we will see a left back come in next summer. But here's the thing for me: when you talk about central midfield, if you're talking about someone who's a very silky, skillful baller,
Mm.
if Paqueta gets an injury or a suspension, we don't really have a kind of like for like player to bring in.
Mm.
Someone who's central, is very attacking. I know Kudus, but he tends to play further forward. But I mean, who's an actual central midfielder who can make things happen,
Mm.
and cause real problems with skill in the middle of the park. If Paqueta goes out of the team, I just don't know who would you even bring in there who would be that kind of skill player in the center of the park. So I think maybe someone like Soler, if you had someone like him on the bench and Paqueta picks up a knock or he gets a suspension, then you can just pop Soler in and say, "Now you're the guy who's going to, pull the strings, who's going to go past people, who's going to open the game up for us
Mm.
inside there." So I think we probably do need a Soler type player in there just for when Paqueta isn't available, because I don't think there is anybody else who can do that.
Mm.
Paqueta goes down. What are you going to do? You can bring in an extra DM. None of us want that really. Play Alvarez and
Ward-Prowse.
Rodriguez, or you don't want to see Suchek coming in. You don't want to see Ward-Prowse coming in to replace
No.
Paqueta. So I think if we had, and that's why I'm a little bit pissed off that Earthy's gone to Bristol City. To be honest, I was hoping that maybe when Paqueta wasn't available, you pop, given the players that are around him, to pop George Earthy in there. Say, go on now, son. You go and show us what you can do. Go and have fun. Pop the ball around, do your thing. I was hoping Earthy might be the one who would get some minutes if Paqueta wasn't available to do that job. As young and inexperienced as he is, I think it would have been perfect kind of role for Earthy to kind of begin to grow into, with the hope that maybe he would be the replacement for Paqueta in the long run. But yeah, it's going to be interesting if we don't get someone like Soler in. What happens when Paqueta isn't available? Do you just drop Kudus back, deeper? I'm not sure how he would play further back, Kudus.
Mm.
But it'll be interesting to see. I really hope we get Soler. And
Do you think he's the long-term replacement for Paquetá? Just being really controversial and maybe saying something that people don't want to think about, but do
Earthy,
you think that he's gonna? No.
Soler?
Soler. I'm thinking that is it
No,
possible?
I don't. If he's young still, by the way, Soler.
27.
Yeah, he's still in his prime. He's not an old player. So I think probably not. I think Soler is kind of like a perfect kind of player for certain situations. Maybe in certain games against certain opposition, Soler could be a player where you get him on after 70 minutes. You're right now, terrorize these fuckers for the last 20 minutes because they're getting tired. Just run at them, use your skill, to hurt them. So I wouldn't see Soler as someone who would replace Paqueta. For example, if we say got our 85 million for Paqueta, Soler is not the player I would want to be coming in. Oh, here's Paqueta's replacement. I just think Soler, for the price we can get him at his age, I think would be just a superb player to bring off the bench. Absolutely. Or someone who could temporarily play in Paqueta's place if he had a knock or he had a suspension. Someone you could play in the domestic cups. If you want to, if you get, championship opposition in the draw, you pop Soler in midfield. You don't have to play Paqueta. You say, right, you go have fun, go and terrorize them, do your thing. So I think he'd be an extremely useful player to have for various situations off the bench, as a squad player. But no, certainly not as a long-term replacement for Paqueta. If we lost Paqueta, I would be looking to bring in, another really, really top class baller to replace him, and we'd certainly have the money to do so. Who that would be, I don't know. But yeah, it's like as Trojan was saying, Alex Garcia. I think that's why I think we're really trying to get Soler. We know Lopetegui really wanted to get Alex Garcia, so he went to Leverkusen. Again, fair enough. But I think Soler is the player that maybe we've identified now to say, okay, we couldn't get Alex Garcia. we're going to go for Soler. He's at PSG. He doesn't get much game time, but he's an absolute corker of a player. So I think we're really, really going to try and get Soler in, and I'll be very happy if we do. I think he could prove to be a very, very useful player, and he's really, really good.
Fair enough. It was just something that occurred to me. I just wondered whether are we getting in Paquetá's replacement ahead of schedule? You know.
Well, I mean, look, we don't know
Dunno.
what's going to happen in the new year. I think it would be very wise to get someone like Soler in now, because if in January or February this hearing happens and he's found guilty and he's suspended, we're going to need somebody that we can pop in for the rest of the season or say, all right, now you're in midfield now. So I suspect there's some thinking behind that as well. In that regard, I think that's one of the reasons we're looking to bring in like an Alex Garcia or a Soler or a player of that ilk, because just in case come the new year, Paqueta is no longer around, and we're going to need a skill player in the center of the park. So I think that would certainly factor into it, and it would be wise. It would be wise to have a player like that just in case.
Yeah. Bit of succession planning, Tommy. We're not usually known for that, are we?
Not really, no. Yeah, and there's only 20 million euros or something for Soler. I mean, it's why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you if you can get him? So that brings us on to tomorrow. Very exciting. Live on Sky, 5:30. Very nice opener. Home game against Villa. I was at the corresponding fixture last season. I went to the game against Villa last season at home. It was a good game. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how many new faces we'll actually see tomorrow. I'm going to put it to you first, and then I'll give my thoughts. Who would you play tomorrow in your 11?
I've already given my 11, and there's a little part of me that's sort of like, on reflection, should I change it? Fuck it. I'm going to go balls deep. Areola, Emerson, Kilman, Todibo, Wan-Bissaka, Rodriguez, Kudus, Paquetá, Somerville, Bowen, Fulkrug.
Boom.
Now,
that's exactly what I would do. Just for the now, do you have those in it? That a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1?
4-3-3.
Yeah, but presumably Kudus would be the more advanced of the three. It'd be more of a kind of a triangle.
Yeah, it would essentially be that sort of setup. Rodriguez would be the one just sitting in front of the back four as a shield, with the other two playing a little bit further forwards, pulling the strings, causing chaos. The thing is, it's one of those, though. I do understand when people sort of say to me, maybe you'd need to beef the midfield up a little bit by doing, and people have sort of said to me about putting Souček in there, and I can understand it. There is a sort of an argument to say, if you put that team out, then what are your options coming off of the bench? Well, I suppose other than Antonio.
Well, sure, but I mean, look, it's I don't particularly buy that argument. I think you put your best team out, you think they'll win you the game. And here's why I don't think that team. People say, "Oh, a lot of debuts in there," but here's my argument to that: would be Kilman is a Premier League defender. He's a Premier League centre back, captain of Wolves, English. What bedding in does he need? None. He knows what he's doing. He's 27. He's very experienced. He's been there, done that in the Premier League for the last number of years. Doesn't need any bedding in. Kilman can start, no problem. Same is true of Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Correct.
Premier League right back, vastly experienced at 26. knows exactly what he's doing, can slot in, no problem. The only one in the back four that's unfamiliar with Premier League is Todibo, and if it's one player out of your four in the back, that's fine. You can give him we'll say someone who's a little bit greener. A start there, no problem. It's 1 out of 4. Same with the midfield. If you were just going to start Rodriguez, it's just one of your midfield who's a bit green when it comes to the Premier League, but he's not green when it comes to experience of football.
No.
You know what I mean? This guy won the World Cup with Argentina, won the last 2 Copa Americas, been playing in Spain, a very, very good league. This guy knows what he's doing. So that's one of your midfield. Somerville the same. Been playing in England long enough. He knows what it's all about. Played in the Premier League for a season with Leeds already. Knows what the Premier League's about. So he's not exactly green either. So you're only really talking about Todibo, Rodriguez, and Fulkrug, who maybe would be green if you like, who are new to the Premier League. Who this Premier League is all new to them. But that's 3 players of your 11. You can do that, no problem. You can have 3 debuts of players who are making a Premier League debut. Not just their West Ham debut. So to me, that wouldn't be an issue with having so many new signings in there, because there's only 3 of them that aren't familiar with the Premier League, aren't well familiar with English football and the Premier League. So to me, it wouldn't be a problem, and I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I would as well. And I've turned around to people who've sort of gone, "Oh, that's a little bit risky," and I'm like, "Yeah, it is, but you got to understand, I've had a couple of seasons of being starved of good attacking football, and I've been used to sort of seeing midfields with James Ward-Prowse and Thomas Soucek sort of sitting in the middle of it. They do what they do, but they're not the most mobile. They're not the most dynamic of midfields. So, I've just gone, fuck it, stick those 3 in. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, exactly, and we'd all love to see it. I think we'd all just be brave.
Yeah.
Just put them in. I mean, look, at the end of the day, they're all going to have to get used to the Premier League. It's as simple as that. The ones who are not used to it, the others will be fine. But the 3 players who are not familiar with the Premier League are all very, very good players and experienced players. So none of them are kids. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
2 of them are over the age of 30, aren't they? So
yeah, 2 of them are over 30. One's 24. Played for France, for Christ's sake. They'll be fine. And I'd love to see it. I suppose the big question, if we do see a team like that, with a lot of debuts, I suppose the big question is, can they hit the ground running, or are there going to be some growing pains? Because not only have we got all these debutants in the team, but we've got a new manager, a new system, new style of play, and the hope is that they'll hit the ground running. But quite a few of them have not had much pre-season, very little. Some of them actually, with Lopetegui and the other players that have already been here. So the worry is that we'd have a slow start. But I think I'd still like to see that team put out every week anyway, because I think that the sooner we put them all out together and keep playing together, the sooner they'll gel, and the sooner they'll get motoring. I don't think there's any point in putting them in fits and starts. I think just put them in. And look, I think as fans, I think we're actually a very realistic fan base. And I've been seeing that with all the new signings, that our fans haven't been getting carried away. We've been talking about, the hope for this season is that, we can push hard for a European spot, which I think is reasonable.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying, we're going to go win the league, or we're going to finish top 4, or top 6, or it has to be top 6, or all this. I think we're very reasonable. And I think that includes the understanding that it may just take a few games before we kind of really get motoring, because there are so many new kind of moving pieces at West Ham this season. So I think Lopetegui and the players will get some latitude from the fans anyway. They'll get some patience in the early few games, say first 6 games.
Yeah.
I think that they'll be given, a bit of understanding from the fans. I think, it was Craig Bellamy that said the West Ham fans were the most intelligent fans he'd played for, and that we know our football and stuff. And so I think we realise that there's a lot of new pieces here, and it may take a little while to gel. So I hope on that basis that Julian Lopetegui would be brave enough to say, you know what, I'm playing my new boys. This is why I brought them here. And I think it is. Todibo was brought here to start. Kilman was brought here to start. Wan-Bissaka was brought here to start. I think Somerville was brought here to start. Fulkrug also, I believe, was not brought in to play behind Antonio. I don't believe.
No.
So I think put them in. I think Rodriguez maybe was bought to be back up to Alvarez potentially, but Alvarez is injured, so he's got to be back up tomorrow. So yeah, I hope Lopetegui is brave and says, you know what, I'm playing my new boys. I wanted them, I got them, and I'm going to put them in and let them gel. I don't know if he will. I'd love him to. So I suppose this is the harder question for you, Gatesy, because I don't fucking know. But what are you expecting tomorrow from West Ham?
I am expecting the game to be an arm wrestle. I am expecting it to be a test. I am expecting there to be phases of the game when we are second best. I am expecting that. I'll be completely open and honest about that one. Like I say, Villa finished fourth last season. They finished fourth on merit. They didn't fluke it. They were there completely deservedly so. They've got a manager who is very tactically astute. They have got a squad that is excellent in its composition. So and as I say, we've also got, as you pointed out, a lot of players who haven't spent a lot of time playing with one another, and we've also got a collection of the old guard who my concern is that they may have it may take them a little bit longer to fully assimilate themselves to the new way of playing, because they've been used to playing the previous manager's style of football for quite some considerable time. And there will be moments during matches, especially in the first half a dozen games or so, when they may do plays, they may make moves that the previous manager would have told them to do, and are just automatic, and they'll do them, and then as soon as they'll execute that particular play, they'll go shit, and they'll look across and they'll see the manager looking at them going, what the fuck are you doing? That's not what I want you to do. So that's something you got to factor in. It's going to take a little bit of time for them to sort of get calibrated to J-Lo's way of playing.
Yeah,
and that starts tomorrow.
yeah.
So I do suspect tomorrow will be a tough fixture. But with all that being said, hopefully the crowd can get behind the players, and hopefully we can, for the 90-minute duration of the match, forget about all of the stuff about concessions, protests, petitions, all the rest of it, which are important. I'm not going to shy away from that. But for 90 minutes, it's the old saying, support the team, not the regime.
Yeah.
And I think we win tomorrow 2-1.
Yeah, given that I accept it could be a slow start and that would be understandable. I don't know. I just think the players, will be the players that have already been here. I think will be excited for this new era. I think they'll see it as a breath of fresh air, a new way of playing that I think they will prefer. We've already heard some mutterings from the training ground, players talking, saying that they're really enjoying it, much more than they had been. The way they're training and the way they're being set up and the way they're going to be playing, and that it's quite exciting for the players, that they really like it. Now, obviously, you have to take some of that with a pinch of salt. They're not going to really say much otherwise with the new manager in. They're going to say nice things. They did that when Moyes was here too, to be fair. But I Well, I accept that it could be a slow start, and tomorrow night might not be a great performance. But I'm going to be optimistic because it won't necessarily be the case that we'll have a slow start. It's entirely possible that we'll hit the ground running, and that we will look fantastic tomorrow. It's really possible that we will look fantastic, and that's the hope, obviously, from all of us, that we actually lay down a marker right from the opening game live on Sky for the whole Premier League to see that West Ham are a very, very fucking serious team this season. And I think in the long run we will be, once we get motoring. But my hope is that we'll be motoring right from the first whistle tomorrow, and that we'll get at Villa. And as you say, they're obviously a very good side, Villa. That's why I'm glad this is the opening game. That it's a really good game like this. I think it will help to focus the players. I think the players will really be up for this because it's Villa as well, and they know they're a really good side. Finished fourth last season, and I think the players and the manager will want to start the season with some kind of a statement performance. They'll want to put in a performance and say, right, we've arrived now. We mean business this season. And I think there will be a lot of self-belief among the players, because those players, we look at the squad and we look around the players we brought in. I think the players also look around and think, fucking hell, we're a good team, you know.
Mm.
You know, if you're Jared Bowen looking around before the kickoff and you're thinking, fucking, there's Caduce, that's Somerville, that's Paquetá, that's Todibo there, and Kilman, and that's Wan-Bissaka here behind me, and that's do you know what I mean? You're looking around and you're thinking, fucking hell, we've got a team here. We've really got a
Where's
fucking team here.
Zuma? Where's Zuma?
Yeah, oh, Jesus Christ. I'm surprised they didn't sign him, that Qatari club, because
Yeah, what a shock. He failed his medical.
because they love camels over there, and like a camel, Zuma's kneecaps are on the back. And
Yeah.
I thought they would have loved that, but it wasn't to be. Unless they can race him instead, I don't know, but maybe they don't want to do that. But
We can't
um,
even give him away, Tom. We can't even give him
it's
away.
yeah,
I think what
it's
we're going to
bad
have
when
to
you
do.
can't give a player away, isn't it? Really,
No.
to anyone.
I think what we're going to have to do, right? It's a bit like, have you ever seen it when you sort of like you leave something out, you're sort of like the front of your front sort of garden fence or whatever, like an old bike or an ironing board or something, and you put like a piece of paper that's sellotape to it, you know, free to a good home. That's Kurt Zuma.
Yeah, yeah,
Please just take him. Take him. He'll probably end up. We'll probably have to put him in the skip, and we'll have to sort of like, you know, fly tip him down a country lane or something.
yeah, yeah. I think we're probably stuck with him now. I mean, it's you know, yeah, it's
Fuck's sake.
crazy. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, can you loan him out and like we'll still pay half his wages? Just take him, no loan fee. Just take him and pay half of his wages. You
That's
know,
what I thought. I was like, well, surely that makes perfect sense because okay,
yeah,
they've said, oh, the medical, we're not too sure, sort of thing, and you're like, why do you think we're giving him away for nothing? You know, surely it's fairly fucking obvious. Anyone with a pair of eyes and a brain can sort of see that the geezer's got kneecaps that are made of jelly.
yeah,
There's a reason we're giving him to you for free. Yes, your medical is going to pick something up. We're fucking telling you that he's fucked. And like you say, surely there's an arrangement where you can turn around and say, okay, look, you know, Kurt Zuma's got another 12 months of his contract. We will stump up half of the you know, for the next 12 months, we will pay half of his contract, and then after that, whatever you do is whatever you do.
yeah,
Surely that makes sense. But
yeah,
no, we're stuck with him.
yeah. But look, it is what it is. We'll see what happens between now and the end of the window. But yeah, so go on then before we go, because we've got to wrap it up now. Prediction tomorrow, Gatesy. What are we going to do?
Yeah, no, I'd say I think it's going to be 2-1, mate. I think we're gonna have moments where we're gonna have to stand up and be counted. There's going to be some really sort of tough phases of play. Say we're playing a very good team. Who's got a very accomplished coach who's been around the block and has got a good pedigree. But I think we're going to do it. As I say, I just think that the optimism around the club, you're going to have hopefully a full house there tomorrow.
Atmosphere is going to be really great tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be, a good advert for Premier League football. I'm hoping it'll be a good advert for West Ham fans around the world, that we can watch the game unfold and watch it with, when that final whistle goes, that we can sort of puff our chest out a little bit with a little bit of pride and go, that's my fucking team, that is.
Yeah, I've got a feeling this is going to be a bit of a cracker. I don't know. I think there's going to be goals in this game because I think both teams have got goals in them. I think this is going to be really good. I think 3-2 West Ham. I think it's going to be a really good game. I know it won't be ideal to concede 3 or concede 2 at home in the opening game, but Villa are a really, really good side. A really good side. And of course, they've got Ollie Watkins, who's just a tremendous player. So I do think they'll score more than one, maybe one each half, something like that. But I don't know. I just feel with the atmosphere in the ground, the players kind of really up for it, and I think Lopetegui will send them out saying, "You need to lay down a marker today and put in a big performance. You've got to start the season off the right way." So I think the players are going to be right up for this. The atmosphere will be electric, and yeah, I think we're going to nick it. Whether it's 2-1 or 3-2 or something, I just feel like we're going to nick this one and get off to a really good start. And I think it's going to be a really good game of football because there's a lot of quality players going to be on that pitch tomorrow. Of the 22 players, there's a lot of quality on the pitch. And I think it will show. So fingers crossed for that. But it's great to have it back. To have the Premier League back, West Ham football back, new manager, new way of playing, some really exciting new signings to get a look at. It's a new West Ham, really, when you think about it, and it's astonishing. I mean, I knew we'd do some business, but I mean, Jesus, like half of our outfield team could be different tomorrow from the one that ended last season, which is astonishing, and some quality players too. So it's going to be really interesting to see what our 11 will be. I hope it's not a disappointment. I hope.
I don't think they'll be playing any of that low block bullshit, do you?
Yeah, and I think the way Lopetegui plays, the way he plays his football and the way he wants us to play out from the back and be possession based, I just don't see where the likes of kind of Safal, Soucek kind of just fit into that at all. I just don't see how we can start them and expect to be able to play his football. So I'm hopeful that we'll see a really strong starting 11 tomorrow with a lot of new signings in there. So fingers crossed that we're right. Listen, thank you so much, Gatesy. It's been a pleasure as always, my friend. Go on in, tell all the viewers where they can find you.
Well, if any of you guys don't know who I am or where I'm from, my name's Gatesy. My friends call me Rob. And I am over on another YouTube channel called The West Ham Massive. And so if you found me mildly entertaining, informative, or even just sort of, you like the cut of my jib, whatever, please feel free to pop over to the West Ham Massive on YouTube and drop us a subscribe. And that would be very much appreciated.
Yeah, definitely recommend it. Great channel. I've been watching all your stuff. Even when the man is so committed. He makes videos when he's out walking the dog with his missus. So can't say more than that about the guy. But go over there and give the West Ham Massive a subscribe and have a look at the videos. And as always, thanks to everybody in the live chat for joining me. Really appreciate it. I'll definitely soon do a video solo where I'm just interacting with the live chat for the evening. Also, please give a like if you're watching this back later or if you're in the live chat. Please hit the like button. It only takes a second and it really helps out to boost the show and get it out to kind of more people, makes it more visible, and I'd really appreciate it. But until next week, when hopefully we'll be talking about a great win against Villa, fingers crossed. Come on, you